Hey, greetings everybody. This is Wesley Pepper here. This is the Art Lexcia, and I'm flying on my own today. Reason is the sister Siza Nkosi had come down, came out with a bit of flu, and all the shit that goes with the flu. So I know she's actually with me right now, but like she didn't feel up for the recording, and like she's a bit fluey and stuff. And like we have a very high standard that we set on the Art Lexcia, so we take we take visuals seriously. Clearly, we do. So yeah, but she'll be well, man. I just thought just before we get into today's episode, it's like I checked it out just before we started. We're actually like almost 913 days into like this COVID world. So as an artist, if you still survive and if you still got a little bit of flu, that's the only thing that you're dealing with, then I think you've done pretty well. I mean, I've been dealing a lot. I've been struggling this week to stay focused a lot as well, and I've been on and off. And with this load shedding nonsense, has really disrupted my entire process this week. So, but like what we just before I introduce our guest today. Today's just last week's episode. So big up to Santa for coming through. That was really dope as episode, man. Thanks to all the listeners for coming through. Like there was a lot of love shown to us on social media because of that. And one love, man. We're definitely gonna be doing a bit more of that type of thing moving forward. I'm talking and playing videos, which we're actually going to be doing that today. And we got a really cool guest today. So we're talking to Sonja Bass. Is it Bass or Bass?
It's Bass.
Bass. All right. All right.
As in fish.
Okay. Yeah. Bass, because you said you're a musician. I just thought of bass.
It's close.
Yeah. It's a very cool name. It's a very cool name. And so I know she's talking on behalf of the Buskaid. Is that a Buskaid collective?
The Buskaid Soweto String Project.
For sure. We're celebrating the 25th year anniversary actually on Sunday on the 17th of July. So we'll give you guys more information on that towards in the show. So because we're switching it up here on the Art Lexcia, we're going to start off with one of the tracks. that was quite an epic intro to today's show, man. Like I thoroughly enjoyed it, man, and I hope the listeners. I mean, that was pretty epic. So we're just starting off with like almost this beautiful ensemble of all these beautiful instruments, all this beautiful sound. Let's introduce so Sonja Bass, right?
Bass.
Pardon.
It's fine.
All right, man. Let's start from the beginning, my sister, man. So, you guys got your 25th year anniversary coming on Sunday. Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday. Where did it all start, man? Because reading up on you guys, it seems like you the story behind this collective is pretty epic, and it'll be interesting to speak like how classic music is. How does South Africans take to classic music? So let's start from the beginning.
Okay. Well, in the beginning, what actually happened was this amazing woman called Rosemary Nalden who founded this whole project. She was living in London. She was a freelance viola player in London, playing with a lot of the top orchestras in London. And she was listening to a radio program one morning. I don't know, can't remember if it was a weekend or a weekday. And she heard this rather scratchy sort of sound of violins playing in the background, and so she started listening to this interview, and it was this project in Diepkloof that was really struggling for funding, and they were all set up. They were doing this thing in Diepkloof in Soweto, and they needed help. And she was very taken by what they were playing and how they were playing it. And it sort of struck a chord within her. And, it was a sort of very deep emotional response to this playing. And they were playing classical music, and it was just the way they were playing it, and it spoke to her. So she started making inquiries, and that led to her organizing a busk. Now, a busk is what we call when musicians, if you go to the subway, or I don't know, around the streets of Newtown, and there's a guy sitting on the corner with a guitar, or and he's busking. So he's putting a hat out and trying to generate a bit of income through his art form. And it was at the time in the world where we had a lot of these sort of initiatives to assist less fortunate people. So there was Live Aid, and there was Band Aid, and there's all of that. Yeah. So the idea was, busk aid, because it was a busk. And so she got 120 of her colleagues to form small groups of musicians, and she got permission to have them play for 2 hours at 16 mainline railway stations across the UK. So that was quite a feat in those days, because it was illegal to do that kind of thing. So she got permission from all the relevant authorities, and at the same time, for 2 hours across all these railway stations, all these groups of musicians did a busk and put out a hat, and she raised £6,000 in 2 hours. And that was way back in 1992. So that was a lot of money in those days.
Yeah.
I mean, still a lot of money now, but it was quite significant. So she then collected instruments and equipment and strings, and sort of came across to deliver and to help and assist this project at Diepkloof. And she was very struck. She was very struck by the sort of incredible instinct that these young musicians had for classical music and for string playing. And she started working with them, and over the next few years, she would come sporadically and spend a couple of months going into the township and teaching them, and sort of getting things going. And it was quite a dangerous time. I mean, it was sort of around the general elections, and I mean, there were times where she couldn't go in because there was a lot of unrest. Anyway, long story short, there was a little bit of there were some problems within the project, and in 1997 she decided to form her own project in Deep Kloof, and 15 of those young players moved across with her. And she found there's a church called Modisha Yobotse, and they gave her a little room. It was like a little sort of back room, and she started teaching in there, and it wasn't sufficient for 15 students and Rosemary to work. And they were driving around Deep Kloof one day, and then she sort of said, well, we've got to find alternative, we've got to build a school, we've got to do something. And there was this chap called Nimrod Moloto, he was sort of one of the elder people from the community that were working with her, and they were driving around. I think they were trying to find gas for a gas heater, and they came across this in Zone 3, this other church which had a creche on the grounds, and she popped on her horn, and somebody came out and she said to them, do you think we can build a music school here? And the priest sort of said, well, I'll talk to the elders, and we built a music school. She raised all the funding, and we built this building, which is specially built for the project. And that's where we've been ever since. And the project has grown from, the building was opened in 1999. I joined the organization in about October that year. And so it was built for 35 students and 2 teachers. And I think we've got about 120 students at the moment and about 10 or 11 teachers. So it's a bit cramped. But but yeah, we've been in that community now for 25 years. And we've had thousands of young children who've come to learn, and some have stayed and some haven't. I mean, it's not an easy thing to learn a violin or a cello. So it does require quite a lot of dedication on the part of the kids. But what is very interesting is that we've never had to advertise or sort of invite applications. These kids come all the time wanting to play. And in recent years, we've had to sort of do what we call interviews, but we sit down with the parents and say, okay, because sometimes the parents want the kids to learn and the kids don't want to learn, or and because we've got such limited space, we have to sort of go through a very, very simple selection process. And then what we do is we have sort of general musicianship classes to see, if some of the kids are really not interested or too young, or it's just not working for them. And then gradually there's a sort of natural attrition, and then we land up with, so we've been trying to, every year up until COVID, that's what we did. We took in a new intake of about 20 or, 27 or 30 kids, some of them on double bass, some of them on cello, some of them on violin. And then as the year passes, we'd lose a few. It's difficult. Often these children land up in situations where they suddenly have to go and live in another area because something's happened at home and they can't stay in Deep Kloof and they have to go elsewhere. So we lose them.
Soweto, or do they come from across Johannesburg or across Gauteng?
No, we operate solely in Deep Kloof, and it's for those kids. We've got some children that come from outlying areas, and very often it doesn't last, because they don't just come once a week for a half-hour lesson.
Yeah,
it starts with sessions on Saturday mornings, and then as they progress, they have to come in for individual lessons during the week, and then and then we have ensembles on a Sunday. And so if they're living far away and they don't have transport, or they are going to a school that is up in Johannesburg somewhere, and they have to be at school until 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it just simply, they just fall off, because they just get behind, and they just can't do it. So the most successful, that's not quite the right way of saying it, but the kids that seem to be able to make the most progress are the ones that live around the corner, or in a couple of zones away, and they can walk to the music school. And they go to a local school, and they can sort of come whenever we need them. So that's sort of why we limited. I mean, we'd love to have lots of little Buskaids all around Soweto and wherever, but then you've got to have the resources, and you've got to have the teachers. The teachers is one of the key.
Where do you guys get your teachers from? Are they locally based as well?
We train them. So the guys that are teaching for us now all started at the project.
Okay.
And as they've progressed on the instruments and as performers, we've trained them as teachers.
Okay.
And we now employ them as teachers. So, over the last 25 years, that we were in a situation, I think it was around about 2002, where we needed more teachers, and we couldn't get teachers to come down from Johannesburg. We were finding that quite a challenge. And secondly, we also use a very specific method of teaching. There are lots of different string methods. Sorry, my cat has decided to come and say hello to us.
Oh, yeah.
So, no, I don't know what he's going to do. Oh, there we go. So we were in a bit of a predicament, and we sort of sat down and thought, well, what are we going to do? And we thought, well, we've got some pretty good musicians, and we've got some pretty good players, and we think that they will develop into very good teachers. And so we started training them, and so now we have this wonderful situation, and it's a sort of drop-down method. So the teachers that are teaching on a Saturday morning, we have different levels of groups. It doesn't go according to age, it goes according to proficiency on the instrument. So how long a child has been learning, or if they're super talented, then they move quickly up to another group. So then the kids that play in the sort of more senior group stay to help and teach the ones that come to a younger group, and those ones then stay and help the ones that are just beginning. And it's a wonderful sort of organic sort of system, where the older ones are teaching the younger ones, who are teaching the younger ones, who are, and gradually it goes down. So you might have a young person of 10 who's been playing the violin for 2 years, helping in a class where you've got a student of 12 who's just beginning and can, doesn't really know even what the names of the strings are yet. But that young person has got more knowledge, so they're then helping the next student, the next level of students. So that's sort of how it works.
Let me ask you this now. So I understand how we understand how the school system works, and how the structure and all of that. So I know one thing, because I'm a visual artist. One of the best tools for the growth is to work and to collaborate with other artists, especially from abroad and such. I mean, you guys have been all over the world and done gigs all over the world. So my question is twofold. Like, is there a lot of these overseas artists coming to come jam, or do you score classic music? Do they come jam, or is there a specific term for it? But do they come over here? And how does that cultural exchange work between the between you and the rest? Because you guys got quite an extensive I mean, you've traveled quite extensively.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've done quite a lot of collaborating. I mean, we've collaborated obviously with professional international artists overseas. But when we travel overseas, we generally, what's quite wonderful is that we interact with communities quite similar to what we have in South Africa.
Okay.
Who also have similar kind of outreach programs, if you want to call them, in the arts. So it might not just be music, it might be dancing, it might be I don't know, but and we interact with them. So they teach us some of their sort of traditional songs and music, and we teach them. So we've done quite a lot of that sort of work. I mean, when we went to Syria was quite an experience. That was before everything went wrong.
Before the Civil War?
Yeah. And I mean, many of the places that we went to are no longer, you know,
I can imagine.
Yeah. We did collaborate quite a number of times with a wonderful dance company in Cartagena in Colombia. And they've come out to South Africa. We've gone to Colombia. So there's been quite a big exchange with them. And again, sorry?
No, sorry, finish.
No. Again, it's you know, it's there's a resonance between, you know, what they're doing and what we're doing. It's the same kind of demographics and what's the word I'm looking for? But you know, the environments that we have in South Africa. You know, they have the same kind of things in Brazil and in Colombia and that. So, you know, that we've done that. Recently, there was a gentleman who's ballet dancer from South Africa, who's been living and working in the UK for quite a number of years. And he decided to come back to South Africa and start something down in the Eastern Cape. And there's discussions, you know, about us going down and doing something in his hometown of Ugi. So yeah, and we obviously I mean, it's difficult because the classical music genre in South Africa is quite, in comparison to hip hop and kwaito and all the rest of it, it's small, you know. It's not a huge
and I'd like to go there. Actually, I'd like to know how do you sort of exist in our complicated musical. What I'm also very interested to know, and it's gonna tie into what you're saying, is that like classical music has got like a real Western kind of feel and texture.
Yeah.
So is there like an African voice? Is there an African texture in classical music? Because I know, like, I have there's a friend of mine in Colombia, and I know what you're saying with their work and their politics, etc., and how they interpret.
Yeah.
So if a collaboration like that should come to play, how does that, you know, how does that translate to the actual music? And then we can sort of get into like, how does classical music fit into our complicated South African art scene? And I mean complicated because it's complicated, and I'm sure you can relate.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of perceptions around. What is extraordinary is that the way these young people respond to classical music, and then go to Europe, which is sort of the, you know, the center of it all. And they go there and they play classical music. People walk away from that going, they've never heard anything like it in their lives. There is a definite flavor and a soul that is brought into the music just because of who they are. And you know, Rosemary's she's an incredible teacher, and I think we've all learned a huge amount from her. And
Still alive?
You know, sorry?
She's still alive?
Yes, yes. No, she's still. She's doing the other interview tonight. So. um, no. She's. I mean, she's been amazing. But you know, the response that we get, and we mustn't forget that, you know, choral tradition in South Africa has always been there. There's a very strong choral tradition, and I think you know, I think people don't realize just how much the African culture embraces classical music. They enjoy it. It's wonderful. There's a very unknown, well, unknown to a lot of people. There's a composer called Bieber, and he was a sort of 1600s. Biber. Heinrich Franz Ignatius Franz van Bieber. And he wrote some amazing Baroque violin pieces and lots of wonderful music, but you know, from the Baroque period. And we had this very interesting young man called Gift, who was part of the original 15 when we started the project. And he had a very difficult, came from a very difficult background, and had a lot of challenges with drug abuse and all sorts of things. You know, he was a typical sort of township teenager, and a lot of challenges in his life. But I remember he said once to Rosemary that he used to go and play these. He loved Bieber. He loved playing Bieber. He sort of was transformed when he played this music. And it's difficult music. It's not easy at all. Yeah. And he would go and sit in a shebeen with his violin, and he would play this music just because it brought him some peace somehow. And tragically, I mean, he'd been through a whole big drug problem. He got over it. He actually left Buskaid for a few years, and then he came back, and he was clean, and he was trying to put his life back on track. And he was starting to play in the JPO and starting to get work out there, and he was playing with us, and then he got killed. We still don't really know the circumstances around his death, but he was found in his shack one morning and he was dead. But he had this incredible connection to classical music, and he just loved it, and he loved playing it. And I think we've got lots of stories of young people who would hear classical music on the radio, and then they'd come knocking on the door and saying, I want to learn, I want to play that music. So it really does have a worldwide appeal. I think, you know, there is this perception that it's Western and it's elitist and it's all of those things. But really, when you play it, I mean, the tradition of it and the skill required to execute it sets you up then to be able to do all the other things that we do, which hopefully you're going to play a bit more of the lighter stuff. But you know, it sets them up so all their quello arrangements are arranged by them. They've taken township music, they've come up with how we can perform them, and sort of on string instruments, but it still sounds like, you know, African township music. So, and I think it's because of the tradition of playing classical music and learning in that tradition with those skills, that skill set, that they can then really expand and do everything from Nina Simone to, you know, jazz to Sting to African quello to, you know,
get you
classical repertoire. They can pretty much, and when they do whatever they play, they have this incredible instinct about the style. So when they're playing Baroque music, they play Baroque music in a certain way, and then when they move to classical repertoire like Mozart and Beethoven, and they have an instinct for that style. And when they play romantic composers, like on Sunday, we're doing a whole selection of pieces from composers that wrote music in Denmark, Sweden, and Norway in a very romantic style, very beautiful pieces. And they adapt and they play it in that sort of style. So their sort of overall musicianship is quite extraordinary. And you can't teach that.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't teach that kind of thing. It's an instinct that it just comes out from them. And because they've been taught well technically and they have a good understanding of their instruments, then they can translate all of that.
Interesting, man. There's actually a bunch of things I'd like to tackle on there, but I think just for time's sake and so forth, because I'm as an artist and on this platform, like I'm really interested in exploring the processes of collaboration, and I'm interested in artists writing down and the technical side, but like, you know, when they write down the music, the rights, etc. Does music rights, pardon me. Also, what I'm interested in is how does the classic music sector differ from, for example, like amapiano. But like that's another topic for another day. That's
you're asking me the wrong. I'm the wrong person.
Because it actually leads me to my next question, right? I understand what you're saying, and I get it. Like Siza and myself, like we're not music students, but like I consume lots and lots of music, and I do listen to classical music. One thing I'm interested in is like we're living in 2022, you know, COVID happened and COVID has rearranged our industry, like flip completely upside down.
Absolutely, yeah.
And our artists are sort of dealing with that. So I've got a question which is also like kind of twofold. Is like and it sort of leads into, so I wanted to know, like you guys still you know, doing CDs, DVDs and so forth, and where do we get all of your you know where can we get all of your music? Are you guys using your Spotify and iTunes platforms, and how is that working? And but like the real the real thing of the question is like how is your audience responding to these digital platforms? Are you guys using it? What's the take? Is it something you think you can grow with? Is it something, or do you think like you guys are gonna just stick to the traditional sense of like you know, having auditoriums and having gigs and so forth?
I think COVID has as you say, it's turned everything upside down, and it's forced us to kind of look at things that I think perhaps we were not really looking at, just because we're perhaps of an older generation. And you know, you sort of you know what works, and there's a formula, and off you go and you do it. Not saying that we're not prepared to explore new things, but I think COVID accelerated a lot of those ideas. So what happened for us is that I mean, for 25 years we've been performing in the Linda Auditorium. Every year we do a concert at the Linda Auditorium, and every year we film it. And it's quite a thing, because then we've got to mix it, and we've got to do the visual mixing, and we've got to get the sound right and syncing and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, what COVID presented us with this fantastic opportunity, because we could not go down. We had to close the school. You know, initially we all thought it was for 3 weeks, and then, you know, great, we'll be back in 3 weeks' time and we'll get on with life. And that turned into what, 5 months? And it did create us with some time, because the thing is, we're an NGO. So in an NGO, you find that there are not that many people employed, all doing a lot of people's jobs. So you are spread quite thin. And you know, I teach the cello and the double bass, and I fix the instruments, and I work in the office. Rosemary and I have been doing all the fundraising. So, you know, there's a lot going on. And when we're teaching as well, going down every afternoon to teach down at the school and over the weekends, you know, you sort of don't always have time to sit and think, well, you know, what can we do that's different?
I get it.
And so COVID came along, and I'm sitting at home, Rosemary's sitting at home, the kids are all sitting at home. Well, I don't think they were sitting at home. I think they were running around the township exploring freedom. But we decided to use the opportunity to do this very big job, which was we had footage from about 5 different years of concerts that we hadn't been able to mix and do the thing. So we got onto that, and we started working with our videographer and our sound engineer and getting all that together. And just before COVID hit us, we had been approached by a chap called Mark Ace, who's a South African violinist, who's now the CEO of the Princeton Symphony Orchestra in the States. And they had wanted us to go across to the States and play at in this do a small tour in, I think it was sort of April in 2020, and of course that didn't happen. So we were busy doing all these things, and Mark just phoned one day to find out how we were doing and how things were going. And the videographer had said to Rosemary, you know, we should put a compilation of all this really good material and stream a concert. We also had an idea that we wanted to do a live stream concert from Holy Trinity. We were also in consultation with the SABC and trying to do something there. But that was quite difficult. It didn't sort of happen. But this idea of creating this concert and streaming it worldwide suddenly became a reality, because Princeton said, well, we'll do it, we'll stream it for you, you just put it together. And so we did in the end, we did 5 concerts. We did 1 concert every month with all this material that we had. And we didn't like stream the 2014 concert and then stream the 2016. We took bits from each year and we compiled a new kind of concert.
Interesting.
That was only an hour long, because normally our concerts are quite long. And Princeton came on board and, you know, helped us with all the technical stuff, and we suddenly had this international audience. It was absolutely amazing. We had people all over the world, in countries that I think there were people in Antigua and all over. There were people in Australia, there were people in Singapore, and America, everywhere.
Can you just
watching our concerts?
Maybe how many thousand people? Can you give us an indication of maybe how many thousand? Was it more than 100,000?
No, it wasn't as many as that. No, it wasn't as many as that. It was difficult because it was a different, it was sometimes the same people that watched all the time, every month, with a few additions. I mean, we thought that it would be bigger than it was, but it was bigger than
you expect.
I mean, yeah. We thought it might sort of go viral. It didn't quite do that, but it was interesting. And you know, it's sort of brought home to us, okay, so you know, if we can't travel, this is a way of reaching these audiences.
Yeah. So what happens to that idea now? Does it become part of the packet, or the parcel? Because now,
well, now what we're doing is all these clips on YouTube that you've got. We're gradually releasing all the clips, so not everything is up yet. So you know, we sort of every week or every 2 weeks we're releasing another clip, another part of the concert. So that people have got access to that.
Fantastic.
So that's what we're doing. So we really are building up our YouTube channel, and we you know, we're trying to build that so that we do get some sort of revenue from it, because you've got to have quite big numbers to do that. But it's getting there. We did a lot of CDs, and we've got DVDs and things, but I mean, I was chatting to Lexcia today. He's helping me in the office, and we were putting all our merchandise together for the concert. And I said to him, why are we not taking DVDs, you know, to sell at the con? He said, nobody buys DVDs anymore.
Yeah, no.
So,
No.
so, you know, that's why we're putting everything up on YouTube, because, you know, that's the best way we can get the visuals out.
You guys find a pretty huge audience on like your Spotify's and iTunes. There's quite a lot.
Yeah. We have got, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not too affair with it. The second does no more, but we do have stuff on iTunes.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have stuff on iTunes.
That actually leads me to the next question, man. This is like kind of wrapping up. So, I mean, you guys got this 25th anniversary coming up on Sunday. Yeah, can you just tell listeners what's happening? What can they expect? What's what's happening? And where can they get hold of, you know, if they want to get tickets, if they want to find information, etc.
Okay, so we all know COVID restrictions have been lifted. So we are allowed to sell out the hall, but we've decided we're going to sort of limit it to 80%, just to give people a bit of an opportunity if they want to spread out a little bit. So this concert is in celebration of the 25th anniversary. It's the 25th year that we've been performing at the Linda. It'll follow a pretty, how our concerts go is we start off with, like you heard at the beginning, a little bit of sort of classical Baroque music. We move into, we've got a wonderful young violinist called Mzwandile Twala, who's going to play a piece by Dvorak for violin and orchestra. We're playing a contemporary piece of music that is being composed by a living composer called Julius Grant, and it's called Scarlatti in Soweto. It's the world premiere of this work. It's a 21st century work. It's absolutely fantastic. It's quirky, it's jazzy, it's innovative, it's different. It's really something unique to come in here. And then we sort of move into some more lighter music, easy listening. I mentioned the pieces from the Scandinavian countries, which are very beautiful romantic music. And then we've got a couple of songs. We've got some very good singers in the group. They're going to come and sing some songs with us. And then we descend into the wonderful eruption of African township music, where the audience sort of is on their feet and dancing. And so it's a sort of all encompassing program. We move right through all the genres.
Yeah, man, and I can imagine now, since all these restrictions have been relaxed, people are dying to get that experience again.
Absolutely.
I'm sure people have missed it. So
yeah. So at the Linda, there's a restaurant. You can come and have lunch before the concert. The concert starts at 3:00 sharp, we hope. You can buy tickets on Quicket. Just put their hashtag Buskaid hashtag 25th anniversary concert. And come along and just come and have a really uplifting experience. There's so much bad news. We're all struggling with load shedding, and the Linda's got a big generator, so even if the lights go out, we'll be okay.
Probably.
I must tell you very quickly that in 2002, they didn't have a generator and the lights went out, and it was darkness. We actually organized candles and played by candlelight. It was a very special concert. But anyway, we've got a generator. The Linda's going to be lit up. There's food, there's wine, there's whatever. Hey?
There's people and there's beautiful music. I think
people
can get anybody anywhere.
Yeah, and you've got to come and share in the magic of Buskaid. It really is an amazing South African story. And tickets range from 175 Rand to 250 Rand, 300 Rand a person.
Okay. And can you bring children?
Yes, but not under the age of 6, please.
Okay. This was incredible, man. I think this was really cool. To the listeners, we're also going to play out with some of the more contemporary type of stuff, just to give the listeners a taste of what to expect. This was fantastic, man. There were so many things I'm listening here that I like to touch on, man. And I'm also interested in as part of the art Lexcia, like we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs across the art. So you know, like we partner, like we currently partnered with a tech company, and we're developing an app that's going to make it possible to stream concerts and monetize it.
Yes.
So you'll be able to. So
listen, we want to explore all of this.
That's a thing. Like we actually poised in a very, very interesting time in human history. Like there's a lot of space for innovation, because if there's one thing that I've noticed, like we covered the National Arts Festival 2 weeks ago, and it was really strange to me to see that like how many of the traditional structures are still there. And I understand that, and I think it's still necessary there to exist. But now we have this, I mean, we have 5G technology, and that just adds, like what you're saying, what I thought was really beautiful of like these productions, how you're chopping them into an hour, because that's also important, people's attention spans. Like it's a different world, but it's a huge world. And like I thought it was really interesting, you're saying of all those countries. So that just shows you the reach, man. I think this is actually quite, so I'm actually quite glad that you had this talk. It also gave us some other very cool insights. So thank you very much for that, man. And to all the listeners, yo, man, like you will check them out, man. It's coming. It is this Sunday. Before we play the track, please like, subscribe, and comment to our channel. You'll find us on Spotify, on iTunes, on Google Podcasts. There's the audio version, and you'll find us on YouTube too. Siza and Nkosi will definitely be with us next week. We also got some other very interesting things lined up. We were going to talk around the Credo Mutua. I would just say experience, because it's quite a broad thing. We're going to talk to that. We also got a lot of more music, musicians coming up, and fantastic, man. It's a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. So thanks everybody for coming through. Thank you very much, Sonja, for coming through. All the best with Sunday's gig. I hope you fill up the stadium, the auditorium, and you have lots of fun. I just hope it all works out for you, man.
Well, thank you very much. It was lovely to chat to you, and I hope that, let's see if they enjoy the music.
I hope so too, man. I'll definitely keep an ear out on what you guys are doing, and I'll definitely reach out, because it'll be very cool to make a follow-up on what happened here today and in future projects. Excellent. So thank you very much, Sonja. We're going to play with Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much, sister.
That's the one. Okay.